say to list. And voila.
This is absolutely one of my favorite features in the whole product right here. I love this one.
You know, mine too. I love LINQ. I'm using LINQ all the time. I'm so used to examining data and expressing myself in that way. And in the past, I've been unable to do that in the debugging experience, and that's really sucked. You know, I think this is our top user voice request that we had. I was like 10,000 people saying, you know, fix lambdas in debugging, and we were so happy to finally get that slammed in there. So these improvements, you know, extend to other language features as well. So you know, if you don't want to make the mistake of saying, I want that guy dot singular default. This is actually, like I said, just meaningless code, but name. And so, you know, Lucien demonstrated the question dot feature earlier, you know, but what this shows is that now you can use those same features in the debugger, and it'll be resilient to the nulls as well. So, you know, finally we're adding features to the language, and they're not working in the debugger like we have in some previous releases. So that's the thing that's got me really excited. Not as excited as Lucien, but as you can see, Lucien's very excited about all of these things. So yeah, those are some of the things that we've done in the IDE. There are other kind of small improvements there, but those are the kind of the highlights. But I want to see you know, all this in action. Talk more about kind of the platform app building experience, because you know, Visual Basic's always got a great history of building these rich client applications, and we've got some improvements there that I think Lucien's going to talk to you about.
Cool.
Yeah. You know, just before we do, there's something that was grating on me with that previous demo that I do want to go back and have a look at. Why didn't this use string interpolation? Wouldn't that have been nicer?
Yeah.
And it's kind of a pain going through your code and changing all of them into string interpolation. I wrote an analyzer plugin, which I don't have it on this machine to show you. There's actually an open source project called CodeCracker, which does these kinds of things as well. You add a reference to a NuGet package from CodeCracker, and then you right-click here, and it puts a kind of a green squiggle under this saying, hey, you could have been using string interpolation. So you right-click, and it turns it into a string interpolated version.
Right.
And the way it does that is that it carries an analyzer inside the NuGet package. So you just have to add a NuGet package, and you get these wonderful values in the IDE.
Yeah.
That's really super exciting, because you do have a large code base. You're not going to go through it all and, oh, let me go find these and update that. But now it makes it like really quick to modernize your code.
Yeah, something people had been asking about. They said, look, I want to update my solution to the new version of Visual Studio, but it's only showing me the top 100 errors, so I have no idea how big a work that will be, or 100 warnings, or if I add a new analyzer, I want to know just how much of the project that will impact. We used to have a limit of just 100 errors to keep responsiveness up, but we've changed that now. We've got unlimited errors, and we've still got the responsiveness up. I don't know how the perf team did it, but they did. On the subject of perf, VB compilation is about 50% faster now than it used to be.
That's the result of rewriting the compiler?
Yeah, we rewrote it all in VB, and now it's a lot faster.
Cool. VB way faster than C++. Actually, part of the re-architecting of everything was to take advantage of immutability so that we could use concurrency. The old compilers, for example, were single-threaded. No matter how many cores you have on your box, I know I've got like a 4 or 8 core machine, and no matter how many cores you have, it's still going to take one of them to build everything. With Visual Studio 2015 and the new compiler, actually, it can use all of your cores so that you don't have idle CPU time going, and that makes your build that much faster. That's really important for if you have large single projects. You know, MS Build has a way to build multiple projects concurrently if you have a bunch of projects in your solution. But if you have one project that's very large, that's where you're really going to see the improvements, because it can compile all the different methods concurrently, and that makes things that much more responsive.
Cool.
Let me show you something else. Here I'm looking at the Solution Explorer for my project, and we've got something new for VB in VS 2015, which is shared projects. They made a tentative showing in VS 2013 for C#, but now we've done them properly from the ground up. So I have one application here called Console App 1, another one called Console App 2, and then I have a shared project, which is in fact referenced by both of them. You can see this is referenced onto the references node. Now, a shared project is different from a class library or a portable class library. A shared project is just a bunch of source files which get incorporated into all of the projects that reference it.
Right.
Now, that lets you use #if and other constructs. I'm going to show you something quite interesting. Why would I be using this? A typical scenario is, say, I'm writing the same application for different platforms. Maybe Xamarin to run on Android, and then Windows to run on Windows Phone and Windows 10. Maybe my view model is mostly the same between the two, but slightly different in some respects. So here I've got a view model. That view model is defined one way in one of the projects and a different way in the other project. And if I do x dot, it can show me some methods like common methods that are common between both of them. And it can also show me other methods like in app1 only with a warning icon because it's only present in one of the projects. So I get the warning straight up as I'm typing. If I do type it, I pop up the error list. The error list is actually populated by simultaneously in the background compiling both projects at the same time. So it shows, hey, this isn't working in the other project.
So this build will fail.
This build,
or actually one of the builds will fail, the other will work.
Exactly.
Right.
The way I can choose which one I'm looking at is this new thing in the navigation pane. Currently it says, I'm looking at it with respect to this head. Let's look at it with respect to this other head. And now it becomes an actual squiggle in there. And I can hover over it and it will show me that it's not available in one or the other.
Right.
In fact, this common method, I want to show you something kind of sneaky about that. This common method is an extension method. Actually, it's an extension method inside one of the projects. It's an extension method here, but it's an instance method in the other one. And when I'm editing my shared project, it's smart enough to know, let's watch that again. I mean, it still shows the extension method icon because we haven't yet invented an icon which says I'm half an extension in one project and a real instance in the other. So it shows something, but it's smart enough to know that this method is not problematic between the two projects.
Right.
That's really useful if, say, one of the platform has a bunch of extension methods to patch up for deficiencies in the platform itself.
So is that what you mean by doing it properly this time?
Yeah. Actually, the half-hearted version we had previously for C# only worked for APIs that were part of the Windows 8.1 platform, Windows 8.1, Windows Phone 8.1. Now we've extended it to absolutely everything. If there are NuGets, extension methods, anything are going to benefit from these light bulbs.
Cool.
I mentioned universal apps. Now, you'll know that if you're using VS 2013, you didn't have a file new to create a universal Windows app shared between phone and store. You could still create them, of course.
Right.
You just had to create the individual projects themselves and share them using portable class libraries. Now I'm happy to say that file, new project, creating VB, Windows Universal. I can create universal Windows projects out of the box in VB.
And are these basically the exact same kinds of Windows, universal Windows apps as they were in the previous version?
No, these are targeted at Windows 10. In the previous version, they were still half-hearted universal apps. They were still creating two separate projects. But what we're doing here now in Windows 10, it's called the Universal Windows Platform. You create a single project, a single code base, a single project in Visual Studio, compile it once, and it works across all different platforms. HoloLens, Internet of Things, Arduino, as well as phone and desktop and tablets and all of that.
So if you go into Windows 8 Universals, is that supported for VB now?
So we still haven't created a universal solution for Windows 8. And actually doing one would not be a good idea. Why? Because Windows 8 on the desktop is going out, because people are going to seriously be upgrading to Windows 10. And Windows 8 Phone is not well served by doing file new Universal 8.1. So starting here with a Windows Universal, and if you want a Phone 8 thing, then you will create it under Windows 8 Phone. And if you want to share, you have the choice. You can share with shared projects or with portable class libraries.
But by far the best experience has got to be on Windows 10 because it's truly universal. As a matter of fact, we're going to go back in there and we're going to lowercase the U in the other ones. Those it's universal-ish projects.
We should put a warning icon next to it saying, hey, do you really want to do this?
Clippy.
So as a back to Windows Universal, let me digress for a second. I've heard two different explanations for why the Hub app and the Grid app templates are not in there yet. I've heard, and I think it was from you, that we decided that we should do them as samples. I heard from somebody else's explanation was that it caused too many lookalike apps in the store, because everybody started with Grid apps or Split apps or Hub apps.
It's
Is it
really interesting.
Neither, both?
We looked at our telemetry, and what we discovered, so what you're referring to is in Windows 8, there were a lot of different samples.
Yes. The Hub, the Grid,
We discovered
the Split.
that the reason people were doing file new Hub or file new Grid was to learn how the Hub
Okay.
design worked and how these XAML controls worked. Once they'd learnt about it, they copied and pasted code from this thing, and they pasted it into a file new blank. Now, copying and pasting code is not the most robust way to create a project, and it's not the best way to learn it. What you really want is to go to a learning resource, which tells you what is the minimum effective thing you need to type into your project. You don't want to have to do that archaeology